And welcome to another Mark Bishop Show. Hey, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you a dog's best friend, or are you their prison guard? Well, why long walks, play, listening, stimulating toys, and a safe home, but never a crate? They're the 5 keys to a happy, healthy dog. So would you lock someone up you love in a cage? I mean, would you? Of course not. Yet it is that exactly that some people still do. They crate their dogs or confine them to a cage for hours at a stretch, perhaps not realizing that it sacrifices a dog's social, physical, and physiological needs for their own convenience. Well, my special guest is Rachel Bellis. She's the Associate Director of Local Affairs for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, our good friends PETA. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
Rachel, dogs are highly social pack animals. They have a lot of mental adjustment to make when they're kept isolated, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, imagine us being locked inside of a closet for hours on end or overnight. You didn't know why, you didn't know what you had done. You would feel lonely, sad, scared, and this is exactly how dogs feel when they are crated. It's nothing more than a convenience tool for humans, and that's why it's so important that we're talking about this today and offering people alternatives to crating their dogs and why crating can be so harmful.
No, I'm really glad we've got you, because now is a good time. A lot of people really don't realize, a dog kept in a crate, deprived of the opportunity to walk around and to stretch and relax and maybe look out a window. Relieve themselves is important, So when forced to spend extended periods of time, dogs often develop separation anxiety and depression. And Rachel, puppies, now, they don't even develop full bladder control, do they, until approximately 6 months old. So it's physically impossible for puppies to hold it while locked in the crate.
That's right. People use crates for house training their puppies, but if their puppy is under 6 months, they're going to go in the crate because they physically cannot hold it. And so that's why it's very important that if somebody is thinking about bringing a puppy into their home, that they consider if they have the time and the energy for them. And really for any companion animal, it's a huge responsibility. But if you are out working for several hours a day, you might want to think about adopting a dog who's already housebroken, and you can just take them for walks, make sure they're getting lots of exercise, giving them lots of interactive toys that will keep them occupied, dog-proofing your home so that it's safe for your dog. But there are alternatives to crating, like using baby gates, putting those up if you want to confine your dog to a certain part of the house, like the dining room and the family room. But they are, like you said, able to walk around and stretch their legs, and they feel like this is their home. Nobody wants to be locked in a cage. Nobody wants to be locked in a cage. There's nothing positive about it. And dogs who are continuously crated can also show signs of aggression and hyperactivity. They are bonding more with their crates than they are with their humans.
Yeah, right. I mean, my little doggy, he loves his little crate to go in, but we leave the door open, so he has that flexibility to move around. What about how is a crate different then from a playpen or a crib or a den?
Well, if you leave the door open for the dog to come and go as they please, that's okay. But otherwise, no. Being locked inside of a crate for hours on end is solitary confinement, which prevents your dog from engaging in basic normal activities and enjoying life. If you want to dog-proof your home so that you can leave your dog out, so you don't feel like you have to crate your dog to keep them safe so that they won't chew on anything, so they won't get into anything that they're not supposed to. It's very important that when we bring a dog or a cat into our home, that we are proofing the house so that they are safe.
Mm-hmm. I'm speaking with Rachel Bellis, the Associate Director of Local Affairs for PETA. let me ask you this one. Here's a nice big one for you. How should people house train puppies?
Well, what I did with my puppy, I made sure he went on lots of walks, always using positive reinforcement training. And there are some great trainers out there who don't support crating. They don't support choke collars or prong collars or any of these negative devices that are just convenience for humans. Lots of walks. You can use pee-pee pads if you have to leave your puppy. You can use the baby gates to keep them in one spot of the house that they're not going to get into anything. But just lots of walks, lots of exercise, lots of treats so they know that when they go outside, they're doing a good thing. It doesn't take that long, really. If you're dedicated and you take the time and energy, you can have your puppy house trained in not a very long period of time, but it does take some energy and it does take effort. And, it is, dogs are amazing. They're wonderful. They're worth it, but we do need to think about the responsibility that goes with having a companion animal before we bring them into our home.
That's it. Some people just don't think. Bring them into an apartment. I know maybe they're lonely. They need some company and they've got to go to work. But, all day you've got to think of the animal. I mean, people should do a lot of things really to keep their dogs happy. Happy's the key, healthy and occupied if they're not home, during the day. We touch on dog proof. I mean, is it as simple as getting rid of things they chew and tear apart, or are there some secrets in reference to dog proofing homes?
Well, you don't really have to get rid of things. You just have to make sure that your dog doesn't have access to them, like your remote control or your shoes. Or
you might want to watch the doggy channel. You don't know.
Plants, make sure that your dogs don't have access to the plants that could be toxic to them. Your cleaning items, your garbage, make sure they can't get into it. There are just lots of things you can do. It's pretty easy when you think about it. Just making sure that look around and see, can my dog get into this? Would they get into this? Is this going to be harmful to them? And just remove it from that area or get it out of, so they can't get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually also leave the TV on the doggy channel sometimes because he loves to get up on the bed, But when I'm watching a Wyoming or a 1823 and then he goes and steps on the channel changer, that's a different story. But he loves that doggy channel. I'll give him that. Oh, dear. I tell you what, beautiful pets. But look, folks, the moral of this interview and story is don't crate your doggy all day and lock him up. It isn't the thing to do. You know what I mean? Well, you just don't do it. I mean, Rachel, is there anything else you could really advise, my listeners, so they don't feel, anxiety over this issue?
Well, what we're finding is that people are crating their dogs the entire time that they're at work. So that could be 8 to 10 hours a day, and then they're crating them at night. So they're spending more time in a crate than they are interacting with their family. And that's not good. And you're creating some really negative behaviors. And that is because of the crating. And so, house-proof, dog-proof your home. Make sure they're getting lots of exercise, lots of walks, that they're getting lots of toys, that they're not bored. Really think about all of these things before you bring a dog into your home. If you can have a family member come and walk them if you can't get home, or a friend, or doggy daycare where they're not going to crate and they can interact with other dogs. There are lots of alternatives. Don't crate your dog. Don't crate your dog. That is nothing good about it. Nothing good about it. It's cruel. It's inhumane. Think about it. We don't want to be locked in a cage. No animal, nobody wants to be locked in a cage.
You heard it right here on the Mark Bishop Show. Rachel Bellis, ladies and gentlemen, Associate Director of Local Affairs. She works with local lawmakers to pass chaining bans as well, improve other standards of care for companion animals. And she's a former longtime resident of Spain, actually, and assists with the Spanish language cruelty cases around the world. and with Mega Spray, neuter events in Mexico. Wonderful job. Thanks for some time you've given us, Rachel. Good words of wisdom, and let's hope they pass on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. It was a pleasure.